get the tram.
Yeah.
And that ends up being a 13-hour day.
Or the one that starts down the road really slowly.
Oh, yeah.
I stop in front of my house every
It's
time.
no different.
That's the one I just
It's just the expense of driving back and forth versus.
It's over.
Because my pickup was all that economical.
Yeah, I put,
Yep.
my car's economical, but I.
Did you get the mic?
Almost 26,000.
I haven't turned mine on. Oh, my button on it?
Well, it's
Almost 100 miles.
each way.
Yeah, it's 100 miles for the long trip.
Yeah, it's 98 miles from each way, so.
No, up top, the black thing, the speaker on the back of it.
So when I'm not quite
It's
sure
an
you
on-off
make it
button.
in that, you gotta be going pretty fast, make it an hour and a half. Elliot's like at the
What is
bottom.
that? Is there a mic on the ground?
Pardon?
It's right on the bottom.
You want another friend on my exit?
Exactly,
You
yeah.
should press down on yours till it shows
I'm
green.
waiting for it.
Otherwise they can't hear you.
Looking at the other side.
You want to say something.
I like that.
Okay. 6:14.
Are there more?
What?
Are there people members?
No, this is everyone, this is
This
it.
is it? So there were two more openings? Three.
It's 3. Yeah, so that was interesting. Okay, 6:15. Calling the Town of Wiscasset Budget Committee meeting into order on 10/9/19 at 6:15. Our first order of business is review and accept the minutes from 9/11/19.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as they are published.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Okay, any abstaining? So we have 5. And we're up to 1. Okay, the minutes pass. Okay, our second order of business, for new business, we have the budget committee would like to meet with department heads before we get into the budget process, discussing revenues and expenses, as well as looking forward into next year. The goals of these meetings could be to help the full budget process go more smoothly by meeting beforehand. And today, we're fortunate enough to get to meet with Lisa Thompson with Parks and Recs, as well as Dennis Simmons with EMS. And so we will give the floor to Lisa.
I'm here to answer questions, so I didn't really have, I'm not really sure what you want to know. So I was instructed by John to be here to have you ask me questions about the budget, so.
Unfortunately, we don't have a copy of it. You and I have two copies. Oh.
I don't know, Zach, if you shared with the committee, you did ask me some questions and I replied to them in email. I gave you answers in
Yes.
email, so I don't know if you want to discuss any of that or.
I read them ahead of time.
Yeah.
I didn't get the
Yeah.
answers.
Let me have those share language.
Yeah, I can start, I got one, I actually asked a question regarding the line regarding donations.
Yes.
Okay.
This is my first time doing the budget planning, that I responded that you had decreased the revenue line for donations for Parks and Rec around 1,500. We're only at month 3 in the budget year, so I guess I'm trying to understand why was the revenue line decreased for that, right at this point in the budget year?
Well, it's really just, it's, especially where donations are concerned, donations are considered sponsorships or donations, or if we get, for example, for our entertainment for Scarecrow Fest, it's being sponsored by the First, and so they pay $250 to cover the music for it. That goes under donations. We're not, I have no idea how much we're gonna collect in donations. We don't know who's gonna donate, so when I did my anticipated revenue for this year, and I just figured with the other revenue that we come in, we can be a little bit lower on donations. I don't go out seeking donations for like a donation drive for no reason. I usually have to have a reason. So either it being like Winterfest or a special event or sponsoring our men's league teams and things like that. So when it comes to sponsorships for our adult basketball league, that money usually goes back into programs because it covers the cost of equipment and t-shirts for that program and referees. So even though it's a sponsorship or a donation, it doesn't go into the donation line. So we don't really have a lot of what I would call clear donations that just said donations. That's why I labeled it miscellaneous, so.
Has there ever been any kind of fundraising for the community center or anything, or donations, or is that ever planned for?
We do fundraising. We have a scholarship fund committee that we raise money for scholarships so that families who can't afford summer camp or after-school programs, or even a lot of our elderly people who can't afford a membership, can apply for assistance. So we don't really, I don't think we've ever had a membership or a fundraiser just to raise revenue for the community center.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Do you think it'd be a good idea to do that?
I mean, I suppose it couldn't hurt. I think that this area is, and we've discussed it a lot at the department, we have seen just with people not registering for programs, there's just not a lot of discretionary income in this area. People don't have money. We had to cancel a trip for kids this Friday that normally fills up with 20 to 30 kids. We only had 3 children signed up for it. And it's because there's no school on Friday, so we plan a trip to an apple orchard so they can go apple picking. And we had to cancel the apple picking trip, and we're actually just doing a day at the community center so we can provide parents with childcare. So we could, and we reduced the fees enough so now they can afford it. So yeah, we're just, that's the one thing I would, fundraising is great. But I think that there's just seems to be a lot of people are having a hard time finding those extra dollars to be able to give.
You're a little freer to talk right now before you're leaving, but for the next budget year, where do you see where we could increase some revenue?
What do you think? We try to talk about this openly at work, at the office. We've raised membership fees, we've raised program fees. I would be hesitant to raise them, I mean, and the plan is to, an every-year plan to raise membership fees. So membership fees will go up another $1 a month next year and $1 a month the following year, and then we'll review it at that time. But we don't want to raise fees so much that people can't afford it, and we're starting to see that a little bit now. I think
we also don't want to be in the same price range as Bath, Blue Bay, or Damascus because they have a lot more amenities to offer. So we need to be a little bit lower just because of what we have.
I had a conversation with Todd at one time about silver sneakers, and which I am a member of.
Yeah.
Saving money by not using it. But he was saying that the revenue wasn't too great from that. He was going to
It's
try
not.
to increase it. Is there a way to increase that?
That's not our call. That's all about the insurance company. Yeah. Yeah.
The pool is such a benefit to the community. I have some friends that have children in the swim club that own the sinkables, I think they do.
Yeah.
And she was questioning me, like, why don't we have swim meets? And I don't know what the requirements are to have swim meets for local things, so they travel to different things, but, what are you guys doing to look at, try to expand usage of the pool and to bring people in there? Because that's, it's really what I think is a good asset for the.
We do host swim meets.
Yeah.
We actually host them, and we're also
Not for the singles.
yeah, but for other, we host swim meets for Hyde School. We're the home meet play. We're Hyde School's home pool. They rent from us. It's about, I want to say, how much do they pay a year? $4,500 a year to rent from us, and that includes us running the meets. So there's a breakdown of pricing that we charge them for hours of use, and each meet is a certain price that we charge them for the equipment and all that stuff to use. we would like to have other schools do it too, but there aren't many. And Wiscasset High School used to have a swim team as well, but that no longer, I think those kids go to Booth Bay. We would welcome other schools too.
Yeah, it's just a little rural area.
Yeah.
Comes over here.
Yep.
When did we stop having a school team?
Swim team,
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, we actually combined with Booth Bay and CLC, I think now. I think all three of us are
With
combined for.
Lincoln Academy, is it Lincoln Academy?
Yeah, not
Yeah,
CLC, Lincoln
yeah.
Academy.
And they have small numbers too, as far as
Mhm.
swimmers.
Do you have any major expenses coming up in the next year?
The roof needs to be looked at, as far as CIP expenses, you mean? Like, yeah, I think that's one thing that I know Bob is very concerned about, and that's the front part of the building.
The asphalt.
Yeah, so that's gonna need to be addressed in the next couple of years. We are getting an HVAC evaluation this year, but the boiler system is gonna need to be addressed in the next 2 to 5 years. Because it's 22 years old now. So that's gonna be another issue that will need to be addressed. I can't think of anything else. Like, those would be the biggest ticket items on that.
I'm trying to look at the picture, which roof are you talking about?
When it faces parking lot.
The one that faces the parking lot.
All the shingle.
Let's just say the roof over my office, which oversees the parking lot, and Bob's office, and we have to change the panels in the ceiling regularly because it leaks a lot.
Gonna be looking
So
at,
we gotta look into that.
Gonna look at metal roofing?
If you ask one of the people on our staff, he loves it. If you ask somebody else, they're not quite in favor of it. And so I tend to, they're both, have a good amount of experience and stuff like that. So it's a running debate.
Cost-wise, I don't think there would be a huge difference.
Yeah, I thought of putting one online, they told me it'd be cheaper than the asphalt because they don't have to take the shingles away, they just put it on over it so you don't have a takeaway fee.
And being a town community, I wouldn't think that we'd have to have that fee, but that'd be something that would have to be worked
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 4 cents a pound, no matter what department.
Good to know.
Lisa, I know you tried to work about renting the facility.
Yeah.
And are you making any headway? Because I know one of the issues was allowing alcoholic beverages
Mhm.
on
Special events.
for special
Yeah.
events.
Yeah,
And,
special events.
um,
I haven't really looked into that. We've talked about it. One thing that I had wanted to do, I don't think I have the time to do it now. We'll see if the next director wants to. I think it's a great facility to rent out to high schools for project graduations. And those can be, a very, for an 8 to 10 hour rental overnight is an easy $2,500. And that's really us just giving the facility over to a school to have for the night, and then using our lifeguards for 2 hours, and then using the remainder of the building for whatever they want to do in it. We'd have one supervisor in the building for the evening, but they would have all their activities there. So I thought that would, that was kind of my goal, to get, a few of the local high schools, not including ours, because we don't charge Wiscasset to have their project grad with us, to come to our facility and have their project graduation there. That was another one. And then the other thing was, we were looking into what would the steps we would take to be able to serve or allow someone to rent the facility and bring in their own, alcohol, someone to serve it and things like that. We were looking into the rental, how we would go about renting that to them. So, because we could just rent the facility and tell the person who's renting it that if they want to bring in a bar and something like that, they would provide the insurance for it, and then we need to see if the town would be open to that. So,
What about the land surrounding the rec center? I know you guys can steal right up back. We've got trails, that's in that part of the Any possibility of doing anything with those, renting that area for people that don't have the space? Or you just looking at the building also?
Just the building. We haven't really looked into renting that. The trails we want the trails to be for use for anybody.
Sure.
Yeah, and I consider that open space. That would be open, and we do have, like, Mid-Coast Conservancy uses our trails regularly this fall for their bike program with the school. So the schools are using it, and yeah, I would prefer to keep that open. We are looking into a grant through Recreation Trails Program to upgrade the trails and do some work on those trails. So
You said you've got Dresden and Alma as
community partners.
community partners. Are there any others lined up or?
Westport, right now we have Westport, Alma, and Dresden just signed on.
Yeah.
So Dresden is our newest one. So I've sent letters out to Richmond, Edgecombe, I have Bristol. I have to look at my list, but I sent about 10 letters and 4 emails, however was the best way to reach them. I have only heard back from Dresden, which I've already been to their meeting and they voted that money in. I have heard from Alma just checking in with me, but they're already a community partner and have been for years. I have not heard from Edgecombe, and I really would like to talk to Richmond, and I'm really thinking that they might be the next group to come on board because they do have a very active membership within our community center. Quite a supportive group of people from Richmond who come down,
Yeah.
so.
Do we know, speaking of that, the community partnership program, do you know how many increased members we have to get to offset the decreased fees that we collect from the community member price?
No, but you wrote something like that to me in an
Yep.
email, and I think that, you know, to offset the price, and you had said you would need like 51 family memberships would make this amount, and then you would
Yep.
still be low on this one.
Yep.
But there's no way to tell how many family memberships we get, how many youth memberships we get. What we want to do is, right now, we have 77 memberships from Dresden. And by bringing in on the community partnership, we're hoping that we can get 50 more membership spots. So by this time next year, we have 120 memberships, or 130. So that's the goal, that's how we kind of look at it, so. That doesn't mean those 50 people or even are gonna buy memberships, but they might buy them if they have the lower price. Do you see?
That's true, yeah.
And the other aspect is, I think that they also get a lower price in any rental that they get a lower price in day pass rates. And we do sell about $36,000 a year just in day passes. So it's a really popular point of sale item for us. But if we had people that had that community partnership rate, I think we would get more from those communities. And we do, we get more day passes sold from Westport and Alna and Wiscasset by far from any other town. And those people can still get memberships, but they just choose to come and pay a day pass.
What does a day pass cost, Lisa?
For youth and seniors, it's $3 per member, $3 for community partners or members. No, yeah, $3. Yeah, for community partners, and the standard rate is $5. So if you're a senior from Woolwich, you pay $5. If you're a senior from Wiscasset, you pay $3. And then for an adult, it's $7 and $9. And for family, it is, we just raised it, so was it 16 and 20? It's 20 and, I think it's 16, because we went from 14 to 16. So it's 16 and 20.
I didn't get a chance to submit questions, but just recently had the Red Sox trip. And interest in that, because I also drive the Northeast. But I was just wondering how successful something like that is for the community center. Is it something that makes money?
No. No, well, if we break even, we're happy. I don't think it's something I would recommend doing right now in the future. We try to do that with another community, and we did this one with Bath. But here's the thing. You buy your tickets in January, and you buy them, you own them. So you've got to go ahead and do the trip. And then if the Red Sox are doing great in September, you're going to sell out. But since the Red Sox went down the crapper this year, we were short a few tickets. So, so we did end up on the other side of that. What I do, I wouldn't make a habit of doing that. I would never recommend doing that on a regular basis. But we do have other programs that make a lot more money than we expect them to, like our summer camp and things like that, that offset some of those programs that don't quite do as well. So after this last Red Sox game, I did say to the staff, I said, I think we should take a little break from doing programs that carry that risk, at least until we get a little bit more stabilized. So.
And maybe Dwayne, maybe you can answer this too. They used to take one of the Little League teams, I don't know if they take, but the team used to go every year. You not remember that, Chris?
The team, what do you got?
What team, the Little League team?
Little League team or a,
We haven't done that.
you haven't, but that was a good thing. It gave those kids an opportunity that would never get to, and there are still a lot of kids like that.
Well, I'll say when I worked here from 99 to 2003, I probably did half a dozen Red Sox trips. They always sold out, and we had a waiting list. But the demographics were different then, the population was a little different then, and the discretionary income was different then because, you know, the Navy base was still here, and Maine Yankee was still open, you know, even though they were in the shutdown mode. There was still a lot, it was a very different economic climate then. So now that we're seeing, it's a different town now than it used to be. So things like that where people, they can't afford to spend $400 to take their family on a family trip to Boston. So, you know, a family of 4 for the Boston Red Sox trip. This last one was $99 a person. So.
I think if we did offer it, we'd have to go in cooperation with Bath.
With Bath or
Danish
another
Star,
town.
with Bay.
And those towns are finding it, you know, they need to collaborate with other towns as well to fill trips like that, so.
I apologize because I didn't get this email with all your answers to
That's
look
okay.
over first. And I was particularly interested in the different membership levels and things like that, just so I could get a handle on things. I see here that you say there are 727 active members, that's individuals.
Individuals.
So would that include like a family of 4? That would be 4 active members.
No, 727 is the number of active members. No, that is the number of active members we have today or yesterday.
Right, and what I'm asking is, so if 4 of those members are in a family membership, that's one membership, but you're counting the 4 members?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and it says that you attached a breakdown. Is that, Zach, is that in here, Zach?
It is not. It was
Okay.
just a list of
Could
just
you
the
send
town
that
names.
to me?
Yes,
as
I'll
well?
resend it to you.
Okay, thank you.
But I was, Lisa had mentioned that she could send us, since it was really difficult because this was as of 10/7/19 and not really encompassing the entire year.
Sure.
That it would be better to send a physical year worth of membership so we could have the breakdown.
Okay.
Yeah, I can send you a breakdown
And
of
then that would be
that,
okay.
of what, I mean, looking at a fiscal year would probably be best.
Yes.
So if I can send you the 18-19 fiscal year and what we had for memberships during that year.
Okay, and the thing that I'm really a little surprised by, we have 288 Wiscasset residents.
Yes.
Our members, out of the grand scheme of things, that seems awfully small, that only 288. Has that gone down considerably over the last number of years, or is that pretty standard?
I don't know. I think it's, I mean, I only have the past couple of years to go by myself. I haven't looked back much further than the time that I've been here. So, but I would think
I think
that's,
it's pretty standard.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because I think that I don't use it myself, but I know when we moved here, I thought what a wonderful facility it is, and it really is beautiful, but you know, obviously everyone's concerned with the budget and the budget overflow. I'm just stunned that only 288 Wiscasset residents are using it.
That number doesn't include Silver Sneakers members. I just went by Wiscasset Community Center members, which is a different, it's under a different thing. And our Silver Sneakers membership is growing the more that the word is getting out.
Any ballpark idea of how many members are falling into that category?
I know that it's gone from when we first started, it was bringing in about $200 a month in revenue, and now it's bringing about $460 a month in revenue. So I want to say it's probably a little more than doubled, which would be maybe 80 or 90 people. And I don't know how many of those are Wiscasset residents, but I can send you that information, because I can easily find that out.
That'd be good to have.
Yeah.
Because I agree, it
So-
looks like a very large budget for only affecting currently 288 people. If you break it down to how much we lose revenue-wise, it ends up being almost $1,500 a person if you divide by.
Well, let's also
If you do it
remember
for
that
Wiscasset.
even though we have 727 memberships, there's a lot more than 727 people that use the facility because
Yeah.
we sell a lot of day passes.
Right.
And we also have people coming in for activities and events that aren't members at all, but sign up for our Breakfast with Santa or our gingerbread house workshop, or they come in for, pickleball, and they pay $3 for that if they're not a member. So I think it's kind of unfair to say we're only servicing 727 people. I think that the facility services well over 1,000 people, and we have to remember, Wiscasset's a small town. We have to think regionally with this facility. It is a Wiscasset town facility, but in order for us to survive, we can't just say we're serving just Wiscasset people anymore. So,
And you also offer, and someone, Pa usually raises the money, swim lessons for grades, classes that go there.
yes, every child in Wiscasset, starting in first grade, I believe, learns to swim at our facility, and they continue to swim as part of their PE program up through grade 5. And actually, Lori LaPointe, our aquatics director, is currently working on trying to continue that program through grades 6 through 12.
Cool.
So, yeah, so that they can continue to have swimming as part of their PE program and actually learn skills like lifeguarding and things like that as they get older. So, yeah, and the PI group raises money for that. So that is also revenue we receive for that as well.
But it also involves many Wiscasset.
Every Wiscasset child learns to swim because of that program. So
there's a lot more people affected than just the.
yeah. So when you look at memberships, the memberships is one part of what we offer. And I think that the membership helps bring in revenue, but it's not the only thing, and it's not the only group we serve.
What's the largest revenue stream that you have?
Programs. So here's my breakdown. So this is from the presentation that I gave. So, but I thought that would be.
I was there for it, but
Yeah,
I know you had some slides in the presentation that weren't in the supporting documents that were included.
So this is what I did present, and I want to just emphasize the word anticipated. Anticipated, and revenue is always a prediction. And I base these numbers on past revenue streams, an average of the past couple of years, what we're anticipating because we've raised some rates on things, and just hoping that continues in the same fashion. So that's kind of where we're at.
And that was on YouTube, right? So people could watch that presentation.
Yeah, but I don't know if the YouTube thing shows
It
the
Doesn't
slides.
always pick
It
it up.
didn't show
No,
slides.
Yeah, because it was hard to see in here anyways with it.
those will be on the supporting documents, so please look at those.
Yeah,
You didn't show us all of it, you just
Yeah.
gave you a whole presentation.
so I want, I just can't emphasize enough, this is what we anticipate to raise. So, we could have a massive storm that wipes out, the county, and we turn into a warming shelter for a month, and that could ruin some of these revenue projections. There could be all kinds of things that happen. Our pool could break down for, we may be down for 6 weeks, and that could ruin our revenue for, and that's been known to happen in other places where I've worked. So it just, you can never predict those things, but you hope this is what you're hoping for.
I think you've keyed on a very, very important word, and a lot of people have a problem with it, is your budget is all based on projections, on whether it's not a clear cut budget. You know what your budget is as far as what your salaries are and the operating costs, but your revenues are all projected.
It is.
It's like, okay, I've got 20 cars on my lot, I hope I sell them all, type thing. It's one of them, it's a gamble. You're hoping that you're gonna have the revenue coming in. Like I said, I keyed on the bus trip to the Red Sox game. There are other different events and stuff that I know that other communities that have done, whether it be through the rec or different organizations. They've organized gambling trips, for a senior group going down to Foxwoods or up to Bangor and in those places. Has there ever been any thought about, doing something like that through the community center?
We offered a trip to the Freiburg Fair, and we had to cancel it because only 2 people signed up. And that was through Northeast Charter and
Yeah.
Ford, so.
And was that with Richmond too?
No, well, we spread the word. We sent information to all the senior centers in the area, including Richmond and Bath, who are 2 of the biggest, most active groups that are in the area. Bodenham, our senior population, and we put it out, through social media, through the public, press releases. We get the word out, but, and we had people talking about it, but when it comes to paying the money, they're just like, a lot of them are like, well, I'll pay you on the day of the trip. But when you're renting a bus, a coach bus, you have to have a guaranteed payment 10 days out to make sure that you have that bus. So there was a lot of misunderstanding, I think, with that, because the seniors in our group are used to just, okay, I'm gonna make my reservation for dinner and I'll pay you on the night of the dinner. And if I don't show up, it's not gonna be a big deal. But it is a big deal when we're trying to do a program where you have to get the revenue in to cover your costs.
There was a great response the night it was announced.
Yeah.
That
There was
senior
a lot of
center,
excitement,
yes.
and actually I came up with that idea sitting in the senior trustees meeting and got a very good response from the board of trustees. They were very excited about it. But again, I think it does come back to people just don't have a lot of discretionary income. They would love to do these things, but it was $25 if you were a member of the senior center, and it was $30 for anyone else who wasn't a member. And I did that to try to drum up more membership for the senior center. Oh, so this is another perk of being a senior center member, not necessarily a community center member. But it just didn't seem to take off. So, and I certainly can't pay for a bus if I only have 3 people signed up. That would be very counterproductive. We thought about taking a school bus, but I didn't want to take 70 and 80-year-old people on a school bus to a 2-hour trip, well, 4 hours on a bus, back and forth. I don't think they would have enjoyed that. So.
$30 per person is all it was?
It was. Because the admission, we were going on Senior Citizen Day, so that would have been free.
A phenomenal price.
Yeah.
You're talking $1,500.
Yeah.
That's Northeast right and cost away.
Exactly, and what we were trying to do, we didn't really, were looking to make a lot of money to start. We just wanted to cover the cost of the bus and the staff person going with them so that we could, have this take off and maybe people start talking about it and we could get more programs like that going and then make some money. But it does appear that people are very reluctant to part with their money, so.
And these are the types of things that you're trying to do to increase your senior
Yes.
programs.
Yes.
And it's just not flying because they have to pay.
Yeah, it's their, they have to commit on their end.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, sounds good. I think we're good on questions. Thank you very
I
much.
think
Okay.
you're doing a phenomenal job. Congratulations on your new position.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
We're sorry to see you.
Thanks. I will miss everybody here. So, it's been-
Yeah. Your keys on the door.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And next up, we have Dennis Timmons from EMS.
Less than that. Too much water work.
There you
Thanks. Yes, sir. Good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I was saying, thank you.
Yeah, you can sit in the electric chair.
She's got it warm anyways.
Wait for his break.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that attachment that came with the answer on the thing,
It's just a list of towns.
yeah, but it had Wiscasset 400 times.
Yes, it did. As I went through it, I could
And I
see
got a
it.
warning that this may not come out because of something.
Yes, yeah, that's what I saw too. That's where I thought it was 50.
I scrapped it.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I wondered, I had Alma with
Yeah.
the same thing.
That's why I went through it, because I think that was supposedly a list of the 727 members where they lived. So it just didn't have any information as the towns. That's why I went through it and saw that there was 52 residents.
The names and everything.
Yeah, but I think she sounds like she's gonna give us a detailed physical year report, so we'll actually know how many family memberships, adult memberships, and youth memberships. So that'll help.
Sorry about that.
So. Okay.
All right, so John kind of wanted me to give you a brief overview as to where we're at right now and kind of what we see coming out for the budget year. I've been working on my budget presentation pretty hard. So hopefully this year will go better than last year because we were all kind of out of the government last year and I came in just as it started. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dennis Simmons. I was hired as the director in February. Started working a little bit in February, but didn't really get here full-time until March. Coming in here, the department was in kind of a mess. There wasn't a whole lot of employees. The previous director had left things in pretty bad shape. When I got here, we had actually about 12 active members. When I say active, we had 12 per diem staff, and we have to staff 28 positions slots a week. So we had 12 people for 28 slots. Of those 12, some of them don't work a week because they're all per diem, so some might not work any, some might work one shift. We actually had 2 people that were here some days literally for 4 and 5 days straight. Came in Wednesday, didn't go home until Sunday. Trying to keep shifts filled and keep the trucks rolling. And because they're hourly, the overtime was outrageous. So for the last budget year, we spent almost $72,000 in overtime, which is an average of $6,000 a month. Some months overtime was as high as $8,000. When they hired me full-time, so I was able to fill in a whole lot of those slots right off the bat. But one of my priorities coming through the door was recruitment. And remember, we had this discussion in my interview, what were we gonna do with recruitment? Recruitment in EMS is just a problem, not just for Wiscasset, not just for this area, but nationally, it's a huge problem. But that was one of my priorities coming into this was we've gotta have more people. And we've managed to do that pretty well. The overtime continued to drop every month after March. March was like 4,000, April was 3, and then May and June were about $2,000 a month. We now have a current roster of 22 very active people. We hired one more full-time person to help also eliminate some of that. And so the overtime for the first quarter of this year was $1,880. So we pretty much eliminated the overtime with recruitment, because we've got the people now to fill the schedule. But that's going to continue to be a problem. You know, with strictly, one of the conversations John and I had coming into this, it's very hard to run a 24/7 operation with strictly part-time people. And not even part-time, they're per diem. So there's a difference between part-time and per diem. The town's personnel policy actually doesn't even address per diem employees, it addresses part-time employees. So that's something we've had to address kind of internally. And so I'm looking at turning some of the per diems into part-time that will just work a regular schedule. So I have some people that just want to work Mondays. Fine, you're part-time, you're working every Monday, 24 hours, and then, you know, that's one slot that's filled week in and week out. As opposed to per diem where, you know, they can work when they want, they don't have to work if they don't want. There's no regularity to it. So anyways, we've managed to get that overtime down and get that staffing problem in decent shape, but there is churn in this, and so that's always going to be something that we're going to have to work towards. The revenue side, we decreased our estimates on revenue for this year. There's a lot of pressure there. Unfortunately, and as Lisa has said, and Lisa's presentation kind of helps me a little bit in some ways, because it's a problem for her with the demographics of town and people getting older. It's less of a problem for me because that means they use our services a whole lot more than you know, the younger crowd does. Unfortunately, the payment side of it is not pretty. We bill enough money in our revenue to actually pay for the service so that it wouldn't cost the taxpayers anything. What we get back is pretty pathetic. And it's gotten worse because of some of the changes in the Affordable Care Act, where people are mostly not required to have insurance any longer. We're seeing an increase in people who don't have insurance. So we see an increase in people who don't pay their bills. So we decreased the revenue a little bit. I think I was pretty conservative in what I decreased it. I think we'll come in ahead of what we thought we would get. But we basically collect about 40% of what we owe. Right in that range. And when I do my budget presentation with you, I will break that down so you really have a good handle as to what that is. But 65% of what we bill is Medicare. And unfortunately, we just don't have any control over what Medicare or Main Care pay us. They set the rates. We can charge them whatever they want, but they're going to pay what they pay, and the rest has to get written off. So, and because we see that huge, because they are a big part of what we bill, you know, if we're going to accept assignment, we have to take what they give us. So, Medicare Main Care is even worse. Main Care pays about 60% of what Medicare pays, and Medicare only pays about 40% of what we bill. The good news for Main Care is starting January 1st of this coming year, they're actually going up to Medicare rates. Typically about 15% of what we bill is Main Care, so it's not going to be a huge amount of money, but I think when I talk to the billing company, we could get another $15,000 or $16,000 a year from that. And Maine would then be the only, believe the only state in the nation whose Medicaid program in care matches Medicare rates. And that's huge for us because it's just, as an industry, statewide, that was an additional $11 million pumped into EMS, so that's a big help. Bad debt is a big problem. Some of you were probably at the meeting that I was at. We wrote off $106,000 in bad debt, which was, I think, 2 years worth of just, people just don't pay their bills. It's as simple as that. We've tried doing collections. This is a list of folks that are under collections, goes back to 2011. There's $285,922 sitting here in collections. And when I started, we get a check from this collection agency every month for $7, because there's one person that pays $10 a month on their bill, and they keep 30%. So we get a $7 check. The bottom line is this: they've collected 3.77% of that $285,000. We just don't get it. So it's unfortunate. And when you get into this national debate about healthcare and who's paying for what, it doesn't make any difference how it goes. It always comes back to the taxpayers in some form or another, no matter what. So I'll leave that out there. Some pressures that we have going forward for this year, because of the recruitment issues in other areas, and because we've actually taken some employees from some of the other services around, we're going to be under pressure for our hourly rate. We're the lowest paid service in Lincoln County right now. And Booth Bay Region just upped their hourly rates, and we're going to be $2 to $5 an hour less than what they're paying currently. So we pay our medics $17.34. They're paying their medics $22.50. So far, they haven't taken any money from us, but if you're doing this for a living, $5 an hour is a lot of money. So there's going to be some pressure on that side moving forward in this coming budget year. I don't think we'd have to increase our hourly rate that much, but we're going to have to do a little something. Both our ambulances are the same age, they're both 2012s. One has 83,000 miles on it, one has 55,000 miles on it. A better gauge for equipment like this is actually hours on the motor. And so the red ambulance that you see out there is 3,900 hours on that motor, and the white one has 3,500 hours. And I think they use around 30 miles per hour. So in actual road miles, both these trucks have well over 100,000 miles on them. The red truck was bought used to start with. The white truck was a new cabin chassis, but it was a used body. And I don't know how old that body was when it was originally put on there. The average life of an ambulance in the service this size is about 8 years. And then we start seeing with the box, you start seeing some electrical problems and other issues. So we're looking at, if not this year, certainly the following year, buying at least one ambulance. And there's no capital improvement plan for this in place currently, and I've been working on one to try so that I can give it to the select board and you folks and say, this is the regular schedule we should be following on replacing these ambulances. The stretchers that we have, those were also purchased used, and they are getting down to their end of their useful life. They're Stryker stretchers. Stryker will only warranty them out to 7 years if you buy an extended warranty, and we're reaching that point now too. Those are $20,000 a piece. This year, Maine EMS approved some new equipment for us to use. So technology is always, in this business, is like Medicaid, we're always getting better. They have approved some CPR devices that we can use. It's actually a machine that does chest compressions. I don't know if you've seen them or not. They range in price from $16,000 to $20,000 a piece. So the stuff is expensive. As far as like stretchers and CPR equipment, there are grant monies out there that we can get, and we're going for it. I've been working on several, and I've got a lady that's a professional grant writer helping me with some. So I'm hoping that we can get some grant money for some of this stuff, so that we can at least not have old breaking down equipment. We did have one ambulance that got towed out of the ER at Miles a couple of weeks ago because it broke down. Luckily, the patient was already out of it, and in the emergency room. So as far as, you know, like Lisa, EMS is what it is. You know, some months you're running your tail off, some months it's just not so much. It's pretty hard to predict. And it's pretty hard to try to increase your revenue when, you know, I can't go out and solicit business. I can't go out and say, well, let's push Kim down so we can take her to the hospital. Trust me, that has happened in the past. If you want to go way back to when the tower and all that stuff came in, it had to do with out west, and they were picking drunks up in the street and transporting them and sending them in the bill. And so anyways, so some of that stuff happened. So it's, you know, we're kind of limited as to, you know, we can't go out and solicit business. So there are some other opportunities coming along that we might be able to get some increase in revenue. Is a program, it's called Community Paramedicine, where we partner up with like Lincoln Health, which we're already in discussions with, and there's a kind of a subset of people out there that are sick enough that they need some help, but they don't quite qualify for home health. But left alone, they end up in the emergency room and they don't need to be. And there's a little gap there. And this community paramedicine program helps to fill in that gap. So we partner with Lincoln Health and their primary care physicians, and then we go into their home and we help with some of these simple things. You know, blood sugars, medication reconciliation, making sure that they've got food and whatnot, and especially with somebody that's been recently discharged from the hospital that have discharge instructions that they need to follow. We can go in and follow up with that and make sure they're doing that so that they don't actually end up back in the hospital again. Currently, that just doesn't pay any money. There's no funds there for that. But the insurance company, so there's a couple places out in the Midwest, out in Minnesota in particular, that have done this and been very successful at it. And the insurance companies are now looking at it and saying, well, it's far cheaper to pay EMS $200 to go into that house and make sure she doesn't go than to pay the EMS $2,000 to pick them up and take them into the emergency room for a $5,000 visit. So it's headed that way. It's going to come. We're confident of it. And we're working with Lincoln County Healthcare now, and they have gotten some grant money to help pay for some of this stuff. So it's gonna take some time, but it will be there. So it'll be another source of revenue for us. The other thing I want to mention to you is that, some of you probably read my monthly reports to John, and I break it down pretty well, how many calls we did, how many no transports we do. We're only transporting about a third of the calls that we actually do. We don't get paid if we don't transport. That's the current payment model with insurance companies right now. That too is changing. Starting this month, Medicare has started a program, it's called ET3, where they're going to allow EMS to do the home health visit, and Medicare will pay some of it. They'll also allow us to transport to a physician's office or an urgent care instead of the emergency room, where some people a lot of people just don't need to go to the emergency room. They plug up the emergency rooms. We only get paid if we take them to an emergency room right now. So if we transport them to an urgent care, we don't get paid. So we don't encourage them to do that because we don't get paid for it. So that's a pilot program that's going on with them right now. So again, that could be some of these people that we get to and then they refuse to go after we get there. We could take them to their doctor's office or they might go to the urgent care and still get them care and still get paid something for it. It won't be as much, but currently we don't transport. We don't get paid. We do send people a bill for $150 for the service. I can tell you about 99% of people just don't pay it. And it's too bad because we do incur cost in doing that. And in some cases quite a bit. You take like a diabetic that has low blood sugar, it's very typical for them. We have to put an IV in them. We actually give them medication to get the blood sugar up, and then once they're up and talking and going at it, they're like, I'm fine, I don't need to go to the hospital. And we can't force them to go. But we've paid for the medication, we paid for the IV setup, we paid to send people. So we do send them a bill for $150, which would cover it, but they don't pay it. So.
Are they generally uninsured?
We're seeing a lot more people that are uninsured. As I said, since they've changed some of the parts of the ACA, we're seeing more people that don't have insurance than we had before. The issue with, and I said with like Medicare, so for instance, and you'll see this in my budget presentation, so for instance, a typical call for us is like, we get a lot of chest pain calls. It's an ALS level call, we take them to the hospital, and the bill from us will typically be around $1,200, a little more than $1,200. So we get paid by the loaded mile. So we don't get paid mileage to go to the scene, we don't get paid mileage to come to the hospital back here. But once the patient's in the back, we get paid whatever the miles is to the scene, to the hospital. We charge $20 a loaded mile, which is a lot. It's the highest rate in this area. Medicare pays us $7.55. And of that $1,000 ALS rate that we're charging for this chest pain call, Medicare is going to allow us $421. They pay 80% of that, and we have to bill the patient for the other 20%. So fortunately with Medicare, we see a lot of people that have secondary insurance that will pay for that. But as far as main care goes, currently they're paying about 60% of that $420, and there's no copays there. We take what they get, and that's that. And main care pays us $4.91 a month out of the $20 that we bill them.
And other insurance companies, I mean, is it just different depending on the
So
insurance company?
it depends on the insurance company. So we're contracted with Blue Cross, and there's not that many commercial insurers left in the state of Maine. So we contract with Blue Cross. They pay us slightly more than the Medicare rate. Cigna, Aetna, Harvard Pilgrim, we don't have any contract. So these are called contractual obligations. We don't have any of those with those commercial insurances. So we typically collect 80 to 90% of the bill with those. We just don't see many of them because they're just not here.
Okay. So when the billing occurs, I've never been in an ambulance, so thank God, right? But, you know, I go into the doctor and it goes through this mysterious billing process and I get that statement that tells me what they're paying and what I'm paying.
Right.
I presume the same thing is
Same thing.
happening?
Yep.
Okay, so those people are just ignoring their portion of the bill.
That would be my thoughts on it, yes.
Okay.
You know, because a lot of those people, the Medicare patients are pretty good about paying. And again, most of them have co-insurance that pick up that part anyways. There's no co-pays with Medicare. Some of them have a $5 copay, but
Well, like a $2 one.
yeah. And then, you know, you have your other health insurance, which typically pays 85%, and we end up billing the patient for that. A lot of the stuff you see here for collections that I mentioned, a lot of them are copays. These range in price from a low of, somebody owes us $20 and we can't collect it, to a high of $2,600, which would be an entire call.
Right.
I thought at one point a few years ago, and maybe more than a few years before we got here, I thought I had received something in the mail where it allowed you to sign up for.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it was, like
A
the
program.
program that
So they had a subscription program where you could sign up and pay some money right up front as a subscription, and we would not charge you whatever your insurance didn't pay. Those actually cost you revenue.
It was
Because-
a ridiculously low
Yeah, it was $25.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you get 50 people that sign up for that $25, and great, you know, you've got over $1,000. But in actual payments, you might have gotten $3,000. And the people that sign up for these subscription programs are the ones that can actually afford to pay the bill to start with.
Yeah.
So I work for another agency that's a not-for-profit further south from here, and they do it. I think they charge $75, but it's a very wealthy town, and they get a lot of people signing up, and they just it's costing them revenue. I'm very convinced of it.
Is ours still in effect?
No. So that's where we started when I got here. That's where we are now. I feel really good about the department right at the moment. I was pretty discouraged the first couple of months, but we're in very, you know, the employees are happy. People are coming to work. My schedule is filled through. So we schedule out a month in advance, so I'm into November. I don't have any open shifts, I don't have any scheduled overtime. You know, we're moving in a really good direction, so.
It sounds like it's coming back to the way it was 4 or 5 years ago.
It is, and a lot of the people that were here 4 or 5 years ago and then left under the last director have come back.
So you're still open to somebody that, say, is a medic that wants to still run, but can't run the way the previous director wanted?
If you can give me a couple of days a month, there's no problem.
What's the average ambulance replacement cost?
So the last quote, the most recent quote that I got for ambulances set up just like we have here. Now bear in mind, it is a demo, so it's a used rig, but the demo is also, has every bell and whistle on it because they're trying to save an ambulance. Just the ambulance was $196,000.
196.
That didn't include the stretcher, the monitor, all the equipment and all that stuff, but most of that stuff we already have. So you're looking at around 200, but I certainly think we could shop around and do better than that.
There's a question on the bad debt. I've sat for a couple of presentations here with one or two of your predecessors, and my head was spinning. As I understand it, if we've got a contract with, say, Dresden, and we're doing the ambulance service, and we get bad debt from Dresden, we swallow it, but they don't.
Well, the way the contract was supposed to read was they paid it. But the current contract is a little ambiguous in that wording.
I wasn't picking, I just pulled Dresden out of the hat.
Yeah, and that actually was because that was a case that we just had, and I was just before the select board, like 3 weeks ago, going around with it. So Westport, we send them a bill every year for what we don't collect.
So we don't write off there, we just send it to them, we don't write it off.
And they pay us a subsidy every year anyways.
Right.
Up front.
I just couldn't figure out why the hell someone go into business and take someone else's debt on.
Do you get?
Well, we do get, even, so the debt we sent Dresden a bill for $6,900 when I first got here, because that was the amount of uncollected stuff. In the grand scheme of things, that wasn't a whole lot of money, because we did bring in actual payments, almost $40,000. And it doesn't cost us any more to do Dresden than if we didn't do Dresden. It's not gonna change anything on our end here. So if we lose Dresden, we're just gonna lose that $40,000 that we clear every year. We are looking at, and that's one of the things that I'm working on now, because our contract with them is up this year, so we are looking at kind of changing that and looking at a different funding formula that might be a little fairer to everybody. There's two sides of that coin. I mean, the taxpayers of Wiscasset certainly should not have to subsidize people in Dresden that don't pay their bills. But the residents in Dresden shouldn't have to subsidize somebody in Dresden that doesn't pay their bills either, any more than Wiscasset should. And that was one of the problems they ran into with Edgecombe when they lost Edgecombe, was that they were going to charge Edgecombe for the uncollected. And some of the taxpayers would shut up and said, why do I have to pay Kim's ambulance bill? That's not my problem. So we're just looking at wording things a little bit differently so that it doesn't seem to be such a bit of a pill to swallow, but try to keep the revenue up.
So you said you send a bill to Westport for their unpaid.
Mm-hmm.
Do they pay?
Yeah, their contract is very clear.
And they pay that?
Yeah,
Okay.
and again, it's not much. I think it was 29 with the Westport.
But
was 29.
historically, around here, there was always debt,
There's always that.
always.
Yep, and that's one of the things John and I discussed about sending them bills for uncollected, because that means, from these two towns, we're actually collecting 100%, which is kind of really isn't realistic in this business sense. So
You said that you don't, your overtime is way down, which is great, but you do some overtime?
I don't. I'm on
Oh, you
salary.
do. Good.
So if I work 60 hours a week, I get paid the same as working
So
4
do
hours.
you work, that was a real problem I had with anyone in your position working a whole lot of extra hours.
So when I first got here, when I first started, I was working 50, 60 hours a week. I'm down to about 45 now. I just try to be here during the day.
That's good. My son is a fireman and works with an ambulance
Yeah.
service. And everybody, all of you need to be rested. I keep telling him that. He doesn't listen to his mother.
Well, and that was the problem, and that was the problem when I first got here, when you had people who were actually living here for 4 or 5 days in a row. That's not a safe situation. It's not safe for them, it's certainly not safe for our patients, and it's not safe for the public. And that was just an intolerable situation that just should have never gone on, and we've got that under control.
I'm curious about, I'm obviously missing something in terms of the contracts that we have with other communities. And I sort of looked back to when we were comparing keeping the EMS in-house and looking at CLC. And I tried to get the information. I thought somebody still had that presentation and I was unable to get my hands on it. But if I recall, CLC was going to charge Wiscasset something in the neighborhood of $170,000.
I think it was 178.
So, other than the population, I don't know what you all look at when you, meaning any ambulance company, what are you looking at when you determine how much you're going to charge a community? Because Dresden has about half our population and we charge them $6,500.
So there's no set formula for this.
Obviously.
There isn't. So I'll give you an example, and I brought it with me just in case this question came up. So when I was working for Northeast and we took over the Camden First Aid contracts in Camden, we took over Camden, Rockport, Lincoln, and Hope. We used a formula on a per capita basis, but then there's the call volume basis of what kind of revenue do you get from that call volume. And so when CLC was looking at doing this, they were looking at, because we only get paid for transports, so they look at what's the transports, and then what's the difference for us to make a profit. So where they came up with the $6,000 or $6,500 for Dresden, I don't know the answer to that, because when Toby left, he took everything with him, or he wiped out everything, and so I had nothing to go by. And that's one of the things that we're working on now is a fair funding formula.
So I heard you're telling me that $6,500 for a town like Dresden is wildly incorrect?
It depends.
Okay.
So I came up from Massachusetts. The company that I worked for in Massachusetts didn't charge the town at all. They weren't making any money, but they didn't charge them, and there's a whole reason for that. Booth Bay, so if you want to look at population, Booth Bay has 3,100 people in it. It's pretty similar to what Wiscasset has. The town of Booth Bay is paying Booth Bay Regional Ambulance $268,000 this year for their ambulance service contract. Booth Bay Harbor's paying almost $300,000 for 300 calls a year. So we charge Dresden $6,500 and we do less than 100 calls a year out there. For us, whatever we get, it's just.
Can you provide us with that?
I cannot. This is sorry.
No problem.
If I remember correctly though, what we were charging Edgecombe and Westport and Alma was really, really low. And I think you...
I can't recall what Westport is. It's very similar to what we're charging Dresden.
But it wasn't, I mean, they just started upping that a bit.
Yeah, and it needs to go up because the cost of us doing business is going up every year, and so that has to go up every year as well. I think part of the reason with Dresden anyways was because they were trying to get the contract away from Gardner, and they were trying to stay competitive with what Gardner wanted, and Gardner was in the range of $16,000 a year. But that was without the uncollected. So if you add the uncollected into what we had, we'd have been right in that range. So we charged them, we're up to $7,500 this year, so that went up $500 each year. And their bill for the uncollected was $6,900. So if you add those in, we were pretty close.
When you said that you were working on a partnership with Lincoln Health, is that just this Wiscasset department, or is that Lincoln County that they're working on with
Nope,
that?
this is something they're doing countywide.
Countywide?
So they're already doing it in Booth Bay and Waldeboro, and now they had approached Wiscasset before, and there wasn't much interest from previous administration, but I jumped all over it. We had a meeting with them here on Monday. And that's going to include the senior center and some of the other community groups, some of the churches, and we're going to bring a lot of stakeholders into this to make it work.
Is there any comment?
You mentioned both of the trucks are aging. My question is do we allow the trucks out unnecessarily?
They do go out and get coffee occasionally.
Why?
Because some days it's pretty boring to sit here. Some days we're very busy, other days we're not.
When I was on the Rockland Fire Department, now Rockland's a full-time service, full-time ambulances, those rigs don't roll unless they're on call, period. That would cut down on unnecessary miles. Nobody taking a rig going out to eat. Understandably, that when you're, say, on your way back from Maine Med, and you're stopping at Miles on the way back because you're coming empty because you've been on a run and haven't had a chance to eat, that is completely understandable. But to see an ambulance sitting at the Taste of Maine, not Taste of Maine, but the Chinese place.
If they're sitting at Taste of Maine, I want to know about it.
But what I'm saying is, they shouldn't, it's not their vehicle to run around town in. Those rigs are designed for life safety. There was a while back, I don't know if you were here then or not, there was an issue with one showing up at the transfer station full of garbage.
Yeah, no, I wasn't here for that.
Loaded full of cardboard. And I said to the person, I said, the two on board, I said, what would you do if you had a call? Well, it's just cardboard.
It's still dirty.
It's dirty. It needs to be disinfected.
Yeah.
So, and I've had people mention that to me, that they see the rigs out around a lot unnecessarily.
Well, now they don't know if it's necessarily or not.
Well,
And as I said, a lot of these calls we go on that we don't do transports to, they're going out and they don't necessarily go to every single call with their lights and sirens on. Because it's not safe. So some of that's a perception issue.
And some of it, another side of it is if they're here and it's lunchtime, you take the ambulance in case you get a call, you're not gonna have to drive back here, get in the ambulance and take off.
right, I understand that.
And I don't let them just go gallivant. If they're gonna go up to the Chinese restaurant and they go get it, they bring it back here. We do some driver training, so you're gonna see people out when we're doing that as well. New employees, when they go through orientation, we take them around town. We show them where the transfer station is, where the community center is, where some of our more frequent calls are. That's part of our training to make sure that they know where they're going. It's some of it's a retention thing. If you get pulling the reins a little too tight and people don't stay, and I've been in this argument before in other services that I work in. It's like, you guys can't leave the station. Well, if you're here for a 24-hour shift, it can be a long day. And so, we do keep the reins on it. I don't let them just go freeload around whenever they want. And most of them have to check with me before they go anywhere, so.
Do you live even down?
You wouldn't believe where I live.
Noblesboro or?
I live in Elliott.
Oh, Elliott.
Holy cow.
I'm from this area originally. I grew up in Knox County, except for the last almost 3 years. I've lived in Cushing pretty much my whole life, and I took a job down south. And then I took this job here, and I'm just, right at the moment, it's just, I don't think it's a good time to buy a house. I think we've hit the peak on the housing thing, and I don't think it's a good time to buy right now. But I have animals, and nobody wants to rent anybody that has animals, so for right at the moment, I'm bought a little Vita car, and I'm just driving back and forth, but I'll get up here eventually. Because I have family here too. My mother lives in Middleborough. So,
I don't have any more questions.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
all right.
I
Pleasure.
really appreciate it.
We'll get into the weeds a little more when I
Yeah.
I show you some photos.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome.
Next. Okay, next.
Oh, that was
Yeah. Next up, I don't think we mentioned it, but we want to congratulate Judy Flanagan on her appointment to the budget committee. Congratulations, Judy.
I just had a new face.
It is.
A new old
She
face.
was with us this past couple of years. And then under old business, or you also could say new business, I did check at the town office this afternoon, and Bernice is sick. So that's why we weren't able to get the financials for this past month. She is not.
What we need is, everyone should have a copy of the budget.
Oh, yes. I would like that, but the financials are in the supporting documents of the, I mean, mine is this big, so it's not
It's
that
in the
easy to
financial
really,
of
yeah,
what?
it's in the supporting documents, that they sent in the agenda for the
Oh, it's the
select
select
board meeting.
Oh, okay.
So it's, as you scroll through that PDF, it's page 33, but it's really tiny on here, so.
I'm probably looking at it
No.
next time.
It's just the sheet, it's not all of the
Oh,
details.
something to break down.
It's not, it's.
No, it is just the sheet, but
Just
that's
the
all we
sheet.
had last week.
I find that's all we need at this point, yeah.
You spend too much time going into that stuff, and it's done,
Yeah.
and, you know, if there's something, we just did it at church, I
Yeah.
went nuts, because they spend all the time going through and find, oh, look, this 80% over, yeah, that's $100, you know.
But I mean, it's nice to know if there's something that needs to
Well,
be
yeah,
addressed.
but you can do that by giving you the same numbers, and
Yeah.
then with a note on the top saying, on page 7, that we're over by 50%, the reason is it's seasonal, or blah, blah, blah. Saves people from spending all the time doing that, and wasting your time.
Nice. Okay, I guess we'll go on to old business then. So we have updates on increasing revenue or decreasing expenses ideas. And I know last time we had mentioned talking about the transfer station pay-as-you-go option to investigate. And I didn't know if anyone had heard anything.
I talked to John about it, I was asked to. He said, they haven't done anything on it right now that your boss would love to have it.
Yes. Well, matter of fact, Ron and I were talking about it this past week. I bounced a couple other ideas off, and other towns have very similar things, okay? But people of Wiscasset have a hard time with change. Nobody likes change. And I think it's across the board. But we constantly get phone calls from Woolwich, Dresden, Pittsburgh, these different people that are real close on the surrounding area from our border that would love to be able to use our facility. Well, I said to Ron, I says, okay, why can't we offer the service out, but if they want to use ours, you know, we have to issue them like some type of sticker, you know, like everybody has in town now, that shows that they're a bright one, that they might be a Dresden resident. And if they want to get rid of their household trash, they could buy the bags at the town office there. You know, and they would have a certain color bag, which would be revenue generated. I mean, that would be strictly revenue coming in. Or if they want to run across the scale and get rid of demolition debris there, it's it's the same rate that we charge for if you come up and get rid of demolition debris. It would be a way to find out a way to bring more revenue into it without really affecting the budget.
Why haven't we done that in the past?
I don't know why.
Many years ago, they did try pay as you go. And they worked on it quite a while. And in fact, it was back when nobody will know this name. Woody Freeman, when Woody was in charge. And the town did not want it. Whether they changed, because we're much more aware of environmental issues now. If that would go at this time, I don't know.
Did they
I'm not
just,
saying
did
make
they
the
stop?
town go for it. I'm saying we offer the service.
I know, you were talking about something else, but I know there's a lot of people that are concerned that we can't recycle like we did, you know, a
We
few
are
months
actually,
ago.
we are actually recycling better now than we were. From now, between now and last year, when I first started, when we were doing when we were doing single stream, that wasn't recycling.
No, but we're throwing a lot in the hopper now.
Yeah, an awful lot every time.
But do you understand where that's going?
Yeah.
Our trash goes to the coal company in Hamden called Fiberway. It is a big processing facility, and all the stuff that's going in, the plastics that we say is not recyclable, that there's no market for, because it's all driven by money. The whole thing is all driven by money, recycling across the world. The only thing right now that's worth any money is number 2 plastics. Everything that we do source separated outside of the facility goes away at 0 cost. Lincoln County Recycling takes that. So for every ton that doesn't go into the hopper, we're saving $70 a ton. But all our trash, when it arrives in Hamden, it's dumped out into this big processing facility, and they have a big conveyor system where they actually bust the bags open. And they remove the plastics and the glass and the metal, and that is separated on the line and generates revenue there. So we're actually recycling better now than we were when we were doing the single stream, where we dump it all into a bin and then we get trucked over to West Bath, then trucked over to Lewiston or like Casella, and they would pick out the things that had a market. Then the rest was ending up in a landfill.
So where is the market? Where are these people up there selling?
They have a big grinder and a melting process to take all those plastics, and they melt it down and they turn it into about the size of a pellet of like wood pellets are.
But where's their market?
They're finding their own markets.
I've worked for a company that started doing that years ago, just with plastic, and they mixed them up all colors, and they were women's shoe heels that they cover with thin, leather.
It's not a viable, they search for places to sell their product, and whoever's making plastic items. The reason why number 2s are so valuable is because, and we have 2 of them. We have the colored and the naturals, and they're only the naturals is about $400 a bale, $400 a ton versus $200 a ton for the colored. And that stuff, that type of plastic gets recycled, and you're going to find that like your kayaks and outdoor furniture and stuff like that all comes from the HDPE plastic.
So we pay them to take it, and then they find a market for what they've taken.
Yep.
We pay $70 a ton for our trash, and they pull stuff out of the trash and is, in a sense, helping the environment. That's still the same money that we were paying for our trash anyways. When we were doing single stream, we were paying originally $5 a ton for disposal, and it went from $5 a ton to $125 a ton. So that's why we went back to source separated. Because for everything that goes, that the county takes, we don't pay anything for.
So John hasn't done anything going forward. Do we want to ask them to have Ron or somebody put together a plan to come forward and say, this is what we think should be doing for pay-as-you-go? I mean, I know the town didn't go for it at one point, but it's a different environment in the town right now, so.
Maybe not ask the town, maybe ask the select board to say, we can offer this as a service to other towns if they want to come.
But
they can-
I think that, transfer station should put together a presentation or something that says this is why it would be beneficial, so that, present to the select board.
And show them you've got excess capacity, and it's the way of paying for it.
Right,
Yeah,
so,
I did check in with Town of Windsor, because they used to do pay-as-you-go with bags. And they said people were cheating the system by putting in like 100 pounds worth of trash in the bags. So they had switched to pay by the pound.
Well,
So
you get
they did
mixed
like
up.
a straight
You're
up.
talking pay as you go, and you're talking about other towns putting
Right.
No, like,
the trash in.
yeah, Windsor had bags that they sold, but people were putting in 100 pounds worth of trash in those bags. So instead, they got rid of the bags and made it just 10 cents a pound.
but I would think that would be, the expert here is the people that work at the transfer station, and Ron, and, people like that, so I would think that as part of any kind of presentation of submitting that, that would be part of what the risks would be as that, so.
But we're also talking two things. We're talking that, and we're also talking extra revenue by taking other people's.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
Because you got, it's like figuring manufacturing overhead, If there were two of us in the room and the cost of this, running this room was just the electricity and it was $1,000 a year, you and I are the only one in the room, it's $500 apiece. But if there's four of us, it's $250 apiece. So if you got more capacity and don't have to get any more people or anything, you're gonna make more money,
And you gotta make sure we don't lose the
Or-
contract.
even without the loss.
Yeah.
Is it something that we want to have, request that, either next month's meeting, this could go on forever, I'd like to see it move, at least get something presented to us so we can ask
Yeah.
questions and then bring it to the select board.
And on pay-as-you-go, I was in a town where we ended up with two wheelies. One had a yellow cover, and that was recyclables, all kinds of recyclables. A truck came on Friday and took that. Then you had a green one, which is just your regular trash, and a separate truck took that. They both of them went through particularly recyclables went on a conveyor belt like you're talking, and they separated the plastics and everything. But prior to that, they had tried stickers, and you put it on your bag. And you could go to the town hall, or you could go to several stores and buy the stickers. And I analyzed it and found out it was costing them $35 a sticker
But,
to
okay,
manage it.
so the notion of cheating the system, right now, if you live in Wiscasset, you could just take your trash over there and that's the end of the story. So what difference does it make how much someone puts in a bag if they're still getting charged $2 a bag or whatever the number is? How are you cheating the system if it was free before?
It's how much per pound if you have,
No, for regular
Household
trash,
trash.
we do not charge, there is no charge
There's no
for
fee.
trash. There's a charge for everything outside the facility. We do not charge for metal. We charge for, if you getting rid of shingles, there's 4 cents a pound there, 4 cents a pound for wood. Brush is a penny a pound.
But we were
Or
talking, we were talking household trash.
household
$2
trash.
a bag or whatever number.
Household trash, there is no charge
Right.
because this community is in mandatory recycling. As long as you are recycling, if you show up and do some recycling, you don't pay. Now, I do have a person that pays $2 a bag, this gentleman right here,
right.
because he chooses not to recycle,
Right, but last week.
which he doesn't need to.
My impression was last week that we talked about the possibility of instituting a fee per bag on regular household trash, regardless of whether or not you're recycling. So if I come into the transfer station and I do all my recycling, and then I've got a bag of trash, here's my $2, here's my bag of trash. There's no, I can't cheat the system because if I'm paying more than $0, what difference does it make how much I've shoved in that bag? I'm still paying for the service to throw my trash away. Granted, nobody, you know, there will be pushback, there will be people who say, well, I didn't have to pay anything before. But there are also an awful lot of cans out that I see, you know? I mean, when we first moved here, we used to service, and we've switched over to the transfer station. So all the people who out there, I mean, Riverside charges
Yeah.
$24 a month.
Yeah.
I can't produce that much trash if I was getting charged
And
$2
we
a
have,
bag.
we have problems with Riverside showing up with no recycling.
Yeah.
You know, like, matter of fact, I talked to the driver today, they did all night. All of his customers up there, only 2 people are recycling.
Yeah.
So,
So I mean, I think it's something to look at, you know, it's a whole different ballgame now because we used to get money
right,
for so many recyclables, and now the taxpayers are picking up that difference, but yet everyone uses the, well, essentially, the whole town uses the service.
they do.
So,
Whether they're coming by Riverside or they're
Right.
coming by themselves.
Right.
All the trash for this area comes through us.
right. So, I mean, this is definitely a department that should at least be flat. You know, there shouldn't be, you know, we shouldn't be supporting it. The potential is there for it
Yes.
to be, you know,
Ron has told me several times that if they were to go to a $2 per bag fee, that it would be flat, that it would come off the tax rolls.
right.
As it
That's-
stands right now, about half of the budget for the transfer station does come from revenues.
Yeah, I guess all I'm asking is that if he states, if he's got a plan or something in his head, let's put it on paper, let's get it in front of us, so we can talk about it.
I will, see him tomorrow.
I mean, do we want to ask him to have it prepared for next month's meeting?
I can ask him. Do you, I mean,
Sure.
is next month?
Because I'm very interested in other towns.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
will talk to him about that,
Yeah,
say,
sure.
hey, is there a way that we can invite other towns in without it really affecting this community? Have to
How
take
many,
it.
maybe you
Without
can
upsetting
take 10
contracts.
towns.
Sure.
Maybe you can take 5 or 2, but anything, you reduce your overhead.
Mhm.
I mean, Booth Bay is a regional,
Yeah.
and that's
So our
similar.
sign says region.
Right, well, we technically are because we
Westport,
got
Allen.
Westport and Allen, you know. And way back, I understand Woolwich used to come to Wiscasset. And
Main Art Gallery, I spoke to John about all of these, I spoke to him about. There's no talk among the select people about doing anything with the lease. There is some,
It's up for
It's going-
renewal
yeah.
next month, and it's not on next week's agenda.
no, and there's no talk about raising the rent or anything. There is some repair work that's gotta be done.
And can we request that it be put on their agenda? Because I think it's, I mean, honestly, to have, you know, sign a lease where we don't even cover the expenses to the taxpayer for the main art gallery, I think is absolutely ridiculous.
It's irresponsible as far as, you know, if we're supposed to be looking after the taxpayer. It seems irresponsible not to even have the discussion.
Everyone's on the waterfront.
Pardon me? Oh, good, because they are on the agenda.
Oh, they are for next
Oh, they
meeting?
are?
And
Yes.
they are talking about raising the fees. Also, they're supposed to pull up stakes every winter and take those buildings out of there.
That's right, they
They've
never
not done
have.
it. That's gonna be on the, talked about. And also, the allocation of space and how it's in there. It looks like a depression area, camp area. And it could be laid out a lot easier and with more access to the water views by some of the other vendors there besides Sprague's.
So you have heard that they are talking about raising
That's
the
what I heard
pier
from
fees?
the village manager.
Okay. I didn't,
Because
What did you
the-
call him?
the town manager.
Town man, sorry. I live in a town, a village
A
of
village.
40,000 people.
So
I'm
because
still having transition problems.
supporting documents in here, maybe they just posted the existing pier information versus what they're proposing. because the rents are exactly the same in the supporting documents as they've been for the last.
I did email Susan, who's the chair of the committee, and I didn't hear back from her.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd asked her if they were planning on increasing the rates.
right.
So they're on select board.
It is
next
on
week.
the agenda for
Okay.
Tuesday night, yes.
But increasing the rates is up to the board.
It is, yeah. I just wondering, I was just asking if they had any update.
I know they
Yes.
have researched,
Yeah.
and they had a while ago to
Right.
get info. I had also heard that the money that came in from the Providence and the big ship, I had assumed it went into the waterfront office, and it didn't, it went into general, which I thought that kind of is
That's a-
why, if you're asking the waterfront to, what are you doing about your revenue? Well, those were two items that the mooring, it just seemed, didn't make sense to me. So I'd like to see if we could follow up on that.
And the last thing I had was Scout Hall, and there's no discussion on that at this time.
Yeah, that was one that I kind of put on there, I think last week, and I asked, and my question is, to me, this town's like a death by 1,000 cuts. It may be small with regards to budget line, but, I think the only people that use that are the scouts. And I believe it's a Wiscasset-owned building, and it kind of falls in line with the art gallery. Why can't the scouts use the community center, which we have here anyway, and potentially sell that building, put it back on the tax rolls or something? Other scout organizations either go to churches or stuff like that, but if they could use the community center, because I'm assuming we pay maintenance and we pay electricity, I don't think the scouts probably pay anything for that scout hall, so, that'd be something that I would like to have put on the agenda for them to look at and say, why couldn't they use the community center? It's a perfect facility to have something like that.
Yeah, and I've never been in that building, I've been in the art gallery, and one of the problems you may have if you charging rent or something, it's not gonna come up any codes for disability or even fire codes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wasn't even leaning towards charging rent unless they wanted to whatever, but why do we have a building if we've got something else in town that, they can use potentially, so.
Because we've always had.
Well, because we've always had it and it's always been available, but, these
Well,
are.
that's part of, you will hear, it's our history, and that building is very near and dear to a whole lot of people in the community. And
Which
My
some that
taxpayer
sit
money
on
is
Which
the,
one?
Frederick Schoolhouse.
Okay,
Oh,
I
you're talking
wasn't
about
sure
art
if you were
gallery?
talking about this.
Yeah. The,
No, that's a very special building, and it's on the National Historic Register, so whatever is done with it, it needs to be cared for.
Right.
But.
but the other building, used to be the fire department, and it was moved there from down the street, and a lot of what you're seeing and growling about was done back in Maine Yankee days. And it was designated Scout Hall, and only the Scouts used it. I never could understand that.
And I
when I was on the
understand,
board,
what was done in the past, and I understand there's probably some, the people that grew up in Wiscasset, live there, their whole life, whatever, there's sentiment, attached to that, but again, we're in, we've heard Lisa talk about, people don't wanna, have money to spend and go through that, and again, I said death by 1,000 cuts, all these things add up, and it's not like, I'm not proposing to potentially take away where they can meet, but why couldn't they use our wonderful asset that is the community center and potentially look at something, because we have to pay maintenance on those buildings. It's not on the tax rolls. It's in a wonderful location downtown that somebody could potentially come and use that. It's something that I at least would like to have brought in front of them.
I'd like to,
Select board.
like, for example, the Scout Hall, I'd like to know, is there any scouts actually even using it?
They are.
Girl Scouts.
Yeah, they found out the Boy Scouts were not.
Yeah.
The Boy Scouts, I don't even think they have a troop anymore here in Wiscasset.
I don't think it's here. They have tried lately, but I don't think it's here either.
No.
But the Girl Scouts do meet there, and I've seen them go out, and they go around the town, and they pick up litter, and
Yeah,
And,
I wonder, because I know scouting, I wonder who the Girl Scouts charter organization is.
Oh, it would have to be whatever it was back when I was in a member.
It can change, it changes a lot.
Well, no, what I'm saying is the troop that I was involved with, Troop 254 up in Warren, the charter organization was the Second Congregational Church of
Oh,
It's a
yes.
church.
that somebody is their representative. And I'm wondering if, for example, say the Congregational Church is their chartered rep, why are they meeting over there
I
and
think
not?
we're getting way away from budget committee
Well,
previous.
well, what I was getting at
The
is,
use of the
if they're, have a chartered rep, why aren't they using their facility?
I just think, it's easy to say it's always been done that way, and it was designated the
Yeah.
Scout Hall when Yankee was here. Yankee is gone, it is a different environment within the town. We continue to see our taxes increase every single year, and I think these are the type of things that I joined the budget committee to talk about and to bring to light. I'm not saying, yes, we have to do this, but I at least want the discussion with the select board and with the budget committee and the other people within the town to say, we as a taxpayer, I am paying, part of my money goes to maintain that building. I'm assuming to pay electricity for that building, to pay heat for the winter. It's just like the same with the main art gallery. I'm fine with them using that, but why can't we charge them enough money to cover the expenses? And why does it have to fall on the taxpayers to fund that? I don't think it should.
And is there liability insurance on their part?
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
I would love to see it on the select board's agenda, and I think that, we talk, what I found is, this is just my impression, is we talk about these things, but things aren't put on, and they go forward, they go nowhere. I would like to
That's my beef.
I make a motion that the chairman bring to the attention of the town manager our discussions on the
Art gallery and the scout.
art gallery, the scout building, single use at the, I want to call it the dump, recycling or whatever, transfer station, and inviting, trying to cover some of our overhead with out-of-town business.
So single use for,
And that may be a problem too, single use with the income in the town, lack of income.
what you're saying, like people putting trash, throwing it away.
Paying $2 a
streets or
bag.
something, or-
I second the motion.
Okay, can I double check about the transfer station part? There was several pieces. So I got Scout Hall, main art gallery, single use, are you saying for everyone? And then also a way for people to pay if they're out of town?
No,
So it was two pieces.
inviting
Inviting,
other towns to use our transfer station to help reduce the overhead.
transfer station.
That should be a simple thing to do.
Is, okay, then we have the motion. All in favor, or any discussion? We're good, all in favor? Sure, okay. Any opposed? Nope, okay, that passes. Okay, anything else?
I got on, or I applied to get back on, because I was concerned with, kind of what you're alluding to, 1,000, that we can't, what I'm hearing is, we can't spend money. This has been a problem that this town has had, even with our bank account, even with Maine Yankee at times. And part of what we're in right now is a big pickle with our wastewater treatment plant. And I would love us to take, I'll pick a figure, $1 million out of the bank and throw it at that place. Not literally throw it, but see how much they do need, take it out, get it done. But it came about because we don't want taxes to go up. we don't want to spend money. And this has been for years, and you can see it now around town. We're not good at maintaining. Why aren't we good at maintaining? Because people don't want their taxes to go up. And we've had boards that have felt that way, both budget committee and select board.
But it all goes on to the warrant and people vote yes. I don't see that the town has any problem spending money.
Well,
And
we
our
don't.
taxes continue to go up.
We don't have a planner.
And how would that change it?
How would that change it?
How would that change the way in which money is
What we need,
spent?
aside from not spending money, we need to increase income and
Right.
a plan.
I would agree, but there are things that we're talking about tonight, and granted, they aren't large revenue streams, but they are revenue streams. And that's one of the things that disturbs me is that people say, well, it's not that much. It's not that much, but when you say it's not that
Put 'em
much
all-
about,
put
that's
all of that,
right,
not
put it all
much
together,
together.
it adds up. So, but at least let's ask that the discussions be had. And I agree with you on the wastewater treatment plant. We can't let a facility that is essential in town fall into such disrepair that it's useless to us. I mean, that kind of money does have to be spent. I agree.
And as I had said when I was on before, I find we need to walk a line between what the ordinance says. I know you made a comment about our ordinance doesn't say we can't look into things, so therefore we can. But that isn't our role.
No,
If it was
we
our
don't
role-
have to, we don't have to be a yes committee either.
Right.
And we don't have to be a no committee either.
Yeah.
We have to look at what's presented and we have to make decisions on what we think is best for the town. I agree.
There's one thing that was raised last week that I would like to see if we can push forward as well with the town manager, and that was, I brought up the town manager's letter last week, the one that he had written himself during budget. Do you remember during budget season last year?
Memorandum, you know, it's saying like what we need to do, either increase taxes.
Well, I might
services.
have an extra one. And, because I printed it out, I happened to be at that meeting. And, he, on the second page, he had a list of things that he thought the town, that those were serious discussions that needed to be had sooner than later. And I'd sure like to see us start to discuss those things before budget season, so that we're not in the same position again. I feel like so often discussions are had like right up against some deadline, and then it's pushed off until the next year because it's just not convenient to make a decision.
That's why I asked that we could do what we're doing now.
Yes, and this is definitely a
Yes,
part of it. So the things on that list are a little, no, I had another one. The things on that list are a little more theoretical, some of them, but I think there's still issues with the select board that have to be discussed.
And Zach, I don't know, what we used to do on the budget committee at times was take a tour of all the facilities. And that is so, I think it's necessary. It's very helpful, but I think it's necessary. And you get to hear the department heads again there.
Yeah, that's something people would be able to have. Okay. Are you in place of like going to it during our meeting, or is this a separate
No,
thing?
separate thing.
Separate thing?
That way we know what we're, you know,
We're looking at.
that thing needs to be on plan when we go and visit the sites that we're gonna be discussing at the meeting and also.
Okay, I'll see if I can get the wastewater. Would that be a good one to
That'd be a
check
good
out
one.
soon? I know I heard Gareth is resigned.
in
And January, so if we.
If you talk to the staff that work down there, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That place is a disaster waiting to happen. DEP is gonna hit us with this town with some big fines if they don't remedy
And
it.
if we took that big step to take a good sum out of it, and start attacking it that way, they might not find us as much either.
They're probably gonna say that it's a town enterprise though, and we shouldn't be using taxpayer money to pay them. That's what their probably argument's gonna be.
Ooh.
Well, then I won't be able to flush my toilet.
Yeah, no,
No, I don't think they're gonna say that.
You don't think so?
No. No, because the taxpayers have supported it every time it's come up for new.
And you have to bring the visiting up to the town manager first, too.
Yes.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I second it,
All in favor?
yes.
Excellent.
Even though you adjourned, I did give him a copy of,
I sent it to everyone.
you did,
Yes.
okay, good. The right to know.
Oh, yeah, is that going around? I got that from someone else, a friend of mine passed it along just out of interest.
Well, I brought it up the other night at the historic meeting.
Oh, okay.
And
So that's where I got it,
Select
from
board,
Pam sent it to me, yeah.
You wanna make a difference?
Okay, ending.
Oh.
What broadcast?
The only way things are really gonna change this town is to change the select board.
Scott, do you need to turn this off over here?
Yes.
Not just here, but a lot of places.
Oh, and
When you take a pencil and stick someone in the eye, the next time they say, you always did it that way.
it doesn't work, you gotta change. My hometown